Boom, and we are live. Thank you for joining the Thunder from Down Under podcast. Our special guest today is Chris Strickland. Chris is an avid investor. He's been in the business for years. He's done, I think he's clocked up 1,300 plus and counting deals. They're a combination between wholesale deals and creative finance deals. He's done everything across the genre. And he also, in his spare time, he is the head coach at Social Media Blueprint, which is an organization that teaches people real estate and also social media marketing, Facebook ads, Facebook marketing, and basically the whole kit and caboodle that goes along with that. So welcome today, Chris. Thank you for coming on. I know you're a busy man. You've carved some time out to come on. So welcome and thanks for your time.
Well, Graham, thank you for having me, man. I am so impressed with what you have here with this podcast and your live streaming. This is way cool, Graham. I'm really, really impressed. So thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. And we're out of the studio. We're on the road. So we're out of the Thunder from Down Under studio. So we're doing it virtually on the road today. So we're still pretty well set up, but we're improvising at the moment. Now, Chris, the first thing I wanted to ask you is, obviously you've been in the business for a long time. I want to ask you if you can just share with the viewers, even prior to when you got into real estate, what you were doing, when you got into real estate, how you started, and then pretty much to share the journey all the way through with us.
Okay, sure, absolutely. So my background is in marketing and advertising. That's what I went to school for, studied at school. And then after leaving college, that's what I did for probably about 15 years. I went to work for usually smaller to maybe slightly medium-sized companies just in their marketing departments. In fact, oftentimes I was the marketing department. So that's kind of what my background was. Along that journey, I ended up, my final marketing job was where I went to work for just a small real estate investor. I think total company size was 8 or 9 people. And so I went in there. He had never formally done any marketing. And so he hired me to wear a bunch of hats, but my primary hat was marketing. And I didn't know anything about real estate at the time. And so for anybody that knows, advertising and marketing and all that, if you're going to really put a marketing campaign together or do some advertising, you have to know the product. And I did not know the product. I did not know real estate at all because it was completely foreign to me. In fact, I had never even bought my own home. The only thing I jokingly say is that I knew how to rent a house, but I wasn't really even good at that because usually my rent checks were late. So anyway, that's what my background in real estate was. And so these marketing jobs is kind of what led me there. And Steve was my boss. And he really he kind of took me under his wing and mentored me. And little by little, I started learning about real estate, mostly just from watching him. But it was awesome. And so, yeah, I started working, watching, and then I bought my first rental property with him advising me on it. And then I owned that for probably a year or so, and before I bought a second one, again with his help, his mentorship, and everything. And then of course, once you own 2 rental properties, you know how to do real estate at that point, right?
You're a mogul.
Yeah, absolutely. Mogul. Exactly, you're a mogul. That's right. And so anyway, me and a buddy of mine, we started a company, real estate investing company. And, he and I were together that first year, and I've been doing it ever since. That was 2007. So in fact, boy, it was probably a week ago. I celebrated my 15th year officially having a company, a real estate investing company, and doing all this. So it's been good. And
was the figure, roughly 1,300. Is it more than that now? Has it sort of accelerated past that? Because you've clocked up a lot of deals. So
we've done a few. A few. I think we've done somewhere in the neighborhood of about, and when I say somewhere, the reason I don't know the exact figure is because that first year that me and my buddy were doing it, I didn't track it. I didn't keep track, and I also didn't keep good records because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But I estimate that it's probably around 1650 or so at this point. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
it's been fun.
that's MVP, that's most valuable player type stuff, Chris. So that's awesome. And I know, knowing you that's not what it's about for you. It's not about the stats and all the rest of it. You're really big on systems and organization and having things in place. And also, one thing that I know, knowing you personally, is mindset's a huge thing. You're really big on mindset, and almost before the real estate, you believe that you've got to get your mind in the right place, and you've got to come from a position of integrity and all that sort of stuff. And that's obviously what you teach, and that's the culture that you create at Social Media Blueprint. Was that always the case, or did your mentor teach you that at the start?
Well, that's actually a really interesting question, Graham, because I don't think I've ever been asked that question, but it's good because I can think back to high school, and I've always been interested in self-help mindset type stuff, right? Tony Robbins, I can remember probably my first year of college getting the old cassette tapes and listening to Tony Robbins on those cassette tapes and things like that, and probably others. Um, but it wasn't until I went to work for my boss, Steve, that I started implementing. And it wasn't even when I began working for him, but I'd probably been working for him. I worked for him for a total of about 3 years. And so probably toward the middle of that third year, now I paid a lot of attention, and he would do something for all of us in the company. He would buy us a book every couple of months. This is back in the days of Amazon shipping. And so he would buy us a book, get them shipped in, and he would give all of us whatever book he had just read that was going to change the world or whatever. And I loved it. And so, but sometime in that third year, toward the end of my third year, probably halfway through, he challenged me. He challenged me to write down all of my goals every single day, right? So write them down today, and then tomorrow flip the page, write them down again. Next day, flip the page, write them down again, and do it in such a repetitive process that it starts to sink in, right? That you start to they start to become a part of you. So I had always heard all different ways of goal setting and all that kind of stuff, and I loved it, and I really paid attention to it. But I can't say I really ever implemented it. You know, my implementation was to take a 3x5 business card, not business card, 3x5 index card, write down my goals, and then put it all over the place so that I would see them all the time. But the problem is after I wrote it down, after I posted them, I never really paid attention to them again, right? They just became wallpaper on the wall. I knew that it was there. If it was on my mirror while I'm brushing my teeth, I knew that that thing was there. But after a few days, I stopped reading it. I stopped really internalizing it. And by taking this legal tablet, this notepad, and writing my goals down every day, it forced me to think about them every single day. So I can't say that he was the reason for me to adopt that mindset, that, you know, whether it's goal oriented or self-help or whatever, but he is certainly the one that I give credit to helping me implement. So
that is a really amazing. I've never had it explain all that, because true, you write down your goals and you put them on the desk, and then paper piles up, and you don't look at them for another 6 months, and you say, "Oh, that's right." And you think, because you get told writing down your goals that's a way to success.
Oh, yeah.
To write them every day is a form of affirmation, isn't it? It's just every day you're thinking about it. And I think Anthony Robbins is one that says if you write down, you go to a seminar and you take notes and write stuff down, you retain 70% more information. So that's actually, you know, I've never had it explained like that. That's probably why you had a blueprint in your head of what you were doing and were able to achieve the things you've achieved. So that's amazing, Chris. That's a real thunderbolt there. And another thing I was going to ask you, we were talking about all the deals and that. You've done wholesaling, you've done creative finance, you've obviously had rentals. Which would be probably the most type of transaction you've done, and what would be your favorite transaction?
Well, that's a really good question too. I certainly have my preferences, but I think what it really gets down to is what your individual goals are, right? What you're trying to accomplish, because everybody has different goals. Everybody has different things that they're wanting to accomplish. And so each of these real estate vehicles can get us to a different goal, or can contribute to that. So if I were to break it down, then I think, out of the three primary real estate investing techniques, flipping properties, going in and rehabbing and all that. So flipping them, rental properties, and wholesaling. If a person has a goal of just making really good cash and building, kind of amassing a pile of money so that they can then go out and do other things or whatever, I don't think there's any better way than wholesaling. Wholesaling is going to put money in your pocket the fastest, with the least risk, and you can just then go out and use that money for to accumulate rentals or whatever else you want to do. Create a company where you do hard money loans or private money loans or whatever. So I think wholesaling definitely gets the cash coming in quickest, and then rentals. So there's a definite spot for rentals, because rentals is where we get cash flow, right? So that's the money that allows us to walk away, to go on vacation for a month or whatever, and still have money coming in, and not have to worry about, hey, am I going to be able to pay the bills next month, right? Do I have to go chase down another deal, a wholesale deal, or even a rehab deal, to be able to pay the bills next month, right? And so rentals are what help us to break away from the 9 to 5, and then rentals also are that vehicle that builds up our wealth.
Yeah.
Right. Because our net worth and our wealth. And so there's definitely a spot for rentals. Now, rentals also can be the biggest headache. So I think there's a right and a wrong way to probably do it, at least in my way of thinking. But rentals have a definite spot. Out of the three primary, my least favorite is flipping properties, right? Rehabbing properties. A lot of people say, yeah, but you can make so much more per deal. And there's truth to that, obviously. But in the time that it takes to line up your contractors, to oversee the contractors, to put it back out there on the market, to wait for the bank's approval, to get the buyer in there, and all that kind of stuff, all the closing. I could have wholesaled easily 10 properties during that time period, depending on how long it takes. And so it's hard for me to justify a flip. Now we do it. Just started one a couple of days ago, so we still do it, but we have pretty high thresholds for what we want that flip to look like if we're going to spend that much time doing it. So I like all the methods. And then you mentioned, private money and creative financing and things like that. There's a whole other world out there beyond these primary ones. And there's a spot for all of it, but it all boils down to the goal. What is your goal? If you need the cash to be able to go get rentals or do something else, then get out there and wholesale. And if you're looking for wealth accumulation and monthly cash flow and income, then rentals.
Yep. So you've pretty much done everything. And a question I got for you, Chris, and I asked a few people this that come on the podcast is, the industry has just changed. COVID come in, virtual just blew up. There was a few people doing it, but it just blew up. Where do you see the trends going? You've been around real estate for a long time. You obviously 2007 would have gone through the GFC. You've seen the ups and downs. You've seen good times. Where do you think it's heading? And I don't, this is just an opinion thing. Look, because of virtual, where do you think the industry is heading in the next couple of years?
Wow, that is a great question. Let me go get my crystal ball.
Yeah, I was going to say we asked the hard-hitting questions here, Chris. And that's right. That's why we bring the big guns in like yourself to ask that. But yeah, that's right. But
well, I mean, it's a good question, and it's a big question. A lot of people are asking this question out there right now, and so I don't know is the easy answer. I don't know that anyone really knows. I will say that we were doing a lot of virtual, like out of my 1,600 and some odd properties. Until recently. Now, I live in an area, I just recently relocated, and I live in an area now where there's an abundance of deals, even during this, crazy real estate market. There's some good deals. And so I live in an area where it's really, everything's close, so I can go look at properties and stuff. But prior to me moving to this area, I was in a different part of the country, and most of my properties, most of those 1,600 properties, I never ever saw. Out of those 1,600 and some odd properties, I probably at that time, up until the last year, I'd probably seen, I think it was 11 of them. So the vast majority I never saw. So I was doing virtual before virtual was a thing. Mm. And so it's nice to see. I hate that COVID has happened and all those types of things. Never would wish ill on anyone. But it's nice to see that that virtuals keep catching up with us. I mean, Zoom, for instance, or being able to go on Facebook, or being able to go on YouTube and all these places, just a lot of the tools that you're utilizing for this podcast. Being able to do those types of things is amazing. And we were doing it before with old school tools, right? And just having somebody go out and take pictures for us and email them, and when email wouldn't carry the pictures, and you're like, hey, did you send the pictures? And they never showed up because they were too big for the email and all this kind of stuff. And now we have tools to where those things are easy. And so I don't know where we're heading. I think virtual is here to stay. At the same time, the other side of that coin is people crave human interaction. Mm. And so I still think that as some of this virus stuff subsides a little bit, that we will still see people getting out there and looking at properties and all that. But there will always be an aspect of virtual, even if you're local, even if you're trying to do things close by, there's still going to be an aspect of virtual that is in there. And then in a case like yours, I mean, virtual's it, and it's a fantastic way to do it. I mean, I usually don't even leave my desk, to do.
It's been amazing, hasn't it? I mean, it's been amazing, just the tools and how things have changed. And, like you said, from 2007 to what you've got at your fingertips now, even just like, with software companies like PropStream and all that, and the data and everything at your fingertips. I talk to people and they say, we used to have to go down the courthouse and we used to have to do this. Yeah. Now it's just all at your fingertips. So I guess, not just for real estate, but the whole virtual thing exploding is changing our culture and changing giving us more choices on what we want to do for a living. I'm from a trade background, and you have to drive to the site, you have to work, and very, rehab type stuff. And that gives you more opportunity now. And I mean, look, like I said, in my case, I'm halfway across the world, and I can interact with people and have relationships with people in another country. So working relations. Yeah. So yeah, that's great. And while you've got your crystal ball out, I'll ask you a couple more questions, right? The two that I get asked the most is, deal flow. How do I improve my deal flow? How do I get deals? So you've had a fair bit of deal flow in your time. Have you got any little tricks or little secrets, or is it just follow the system? What works for you the best, Chris?
Well, it certainly follow the system, but I think, and it's not just this business, it's any type of a sales type of a business. People get so focused on the deal in front of them that they forget to keep the pipeline filled, right? Mm-hmm. They don't devote enough time. To me, this issue is not a real estate issue. It's not a sales issue. It's a focus and time management issue. Right? Because if I will, while I'm working on this deal in front of me, while I'm working this flip, for instance, while I'm doing other deals that are right in front of me, I've got to do a couple of things. I've got to first, at the beginning of my pipeline out here, I have got to keep all of the initial leads flowing in, whether that's from, paid online ads, Facebook ads, things like that, whether that's from any kind of organic marketing that I'm doing, or really any other lead generation. I've got to keep that going no matter what's in front of me. And then secondly, I've got to have that some type of a nurturing sequence that is going to ensure that that lead that comes in has the highest likelihood of making it into being a deal as possible. And so when I'm nurturing, the nurturing could be automated. Some of it could be automated if I'm using a CRM or, some type of a automated mail app or something, or like MailChimp or something like that. Or so it's a combination of automation, but it should also include some of your time and effort, or somebody on your team, for instance, or something like that. So deal flow is not a real estate issue, right? Deal flow is what's in my head, how am I dealing with this issue, right? It's the systems, you mentioned systems, it's the systems you have in place, and making sure that your focus is certainly on this deal in front of you, but also on keeping that pipeline flowing and filled. So to me, that's all deal flow.
That's once again, that's you've put it, wrapped it up in a nutshell. It's very important to continue working on it, even when you're doing other stuff, nurturing deals through. You have to be focused on the front end, because if that dries up, then you're in a bit of trouble. And the other one I get asked, and this is the real crystal ball one, is buyers. I want to get. How do I get a buyers list? I think people want to get a buyers list of 50 people in about 2 days, and it's once again, it's as with the front end, it's the human side of it too, isn't it? You can't just automate everything and expect buyers to come in. And a lot of people do it quite well, but there's still a bit of a human side. How have you found the best way to get buyers? Is it more the personal touch, or is it more a systems thing as well?
Yeah, well, it's a combination. I think initially, when you're trying to find buyers, and just who do I even reach out to? Who could be a buyer? A lot of that up front can be automated, whether it's through ads or through jumping into Facebook groups and things like that. So maybe automation is the wrong word, but systematized, right? It can be systematically approached. And then as I start getting a whole bunch of just a whole slew of people that could be my buyers, that's when I start wanting to peel them off and add that human touch. And whether it's jumping on phone calls or Zoom calls with them, or any combination of things. If it's somebody close, maybe I'm going to take them to lunch or something like that. It depends, our time, their time, everybody's time is really precious these days. But I tell you what, building those relationships, it's worth it. And so, and that human touch, that's what so many people are lacking right now. And I think if you were to boil down the whole pandemic thing that's out there, I'll bet if you were to peel back the onion and everything, the thing that is most lacking today is that humanity, that human touch, that being able to just slap somebody on the back as you're walking into the store or the restaurant or whatever. And so, yeah, at some point you've definitely got to have those conversations and just see how you can work together. So
yeah, because it is people's game, isn't it? It's a real relationship game, and the better you are at connecting with people, and especially on the back end with buyers. So, the RIAs and all that in the past have been a way where people can shake hands, meet people but now, like you said, with virtual, you have to use Zoom and that, which is great because you can get to interact. You get a feeling. On the phone, it's a little bit harder, but with Zoom and all these platforms now, you can still build relationships with people in a virtual market. So that's a really good point. Now, Chris, I've squeezed everything out of you. You've had the crystal ball there. Let's put that aside, the crystal ball. Put your coaching cap on. I'm going to ask you a few questions now. Like I said, you're big on culture. You're big on mindset, positivity, all that sort of stuff. You're big on systems. You're obviously very structured because you've had to be, with a lot of students coming through. Then what happens when you get thrown a curveball and some loud, bombastic Aussie peanut gets thrown into the mix? How do you handle that? I mean, how do you prepare for that?
Well, I've never had that happen. So uh, well, flexibility, right? I mean, yeah, we have systems. I have I would say a fairly rigid system as far as like my planning time and, how I spend my time planning out a week, planning out my day, things like that. But I don't know, in all the years that I've been doing that, I don't know if I've ever had one day that ever stuck to the plan, right?
Yeah.
So there has to be flexibility in there. But just like who was it? There's a couple of people credited with this, but I think Dwight D. Eisenhower is the one that I've heard the most, and that I'll slaughter the quote, but it's something like that planning is useless, having a plan is useless, but planning is indispensable, or something like that.
Yep.
Totally slaughtered. Everybody go look it up. It's a great quote. But
anyway. We know what you're saying. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. And so anyway, I plan, but I have to be flexible, right? And so you just roll with the flow, And one thing, because a lot of people think, like, for instance, coming on to a podcast like this, or really anything, when you're asked a question like this, when you've been in the business for a while and you've done several deals, you'll be asked a lot of questions. The reality is, I don't know a lot of the time, right? I don't have a lot of the answers. The thing that I pride myself on is I know where to go to get the answers, right? The answers that are important. And so whether that's an industry professional or some other investor that maybe has more experience than me, or has just faced that challenge more than me, or whatever. So when you say curveballs, how do you deal with the curveballs, or anything that's kind of out of the system, then you just flow with it, right? Biggest challenge in working with you, Graham, as you came in, was just for us to be able to speak the same language.
We use subtitles a lot of the time. We
subtitles,
so that worked, especially when Coach Randy and I got together with his strong accent from Tennessee. So we use subtitles. But on that point, you get so many different students, so many personalities. You get big personalities, strong personality. You get a lot of people that come in the program that are successful in their own right and come in, thinking that they might know everything. So that's what I'm saying is you have to pull it all together. And I mean, I think you do it fantastic, but there's so much stuff like that. And that sort of leads me to the next question is, what do you see makes someone successful that comes through? And what do you see someone failing, for want of a better word, or not being successful?
Humility.
With all these people coming in, what do you see as the attributes and the things that people probably do wrong that make them not successful through the program?
Humility.
Yep.
Humility, I believe, is it. And I'll tell you, I'll share a personal experience, if I may.
Yeah.
So years ago, I'd been investing for a few years. My brother wanted to get into investing, and he invited me. He had met someone. He invited me to essentially a real estate investment club in the area that someone had invited him to. And he said, "Hey, let's go to this." And I went, and I'll be honest, in my way of thinking back then, at that time, I don't know, I'd probably done a few hundred properties, maybe. And at that time, in my head, I'm thinking, what can these people teach me? I had such a skewed way of thinking about it all. And so we went in there, and after the meeting, and the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, I know how to do that. Right? I could do that. I've done that. Whatever. All these thoughts are going through my head. And after the meeting, my brother says, "So what'd you think?" And I basically told him what I just said. Nice people, but I know how to do all those things. We don't need them. And he really got upset with me, and basically just put me in my place, right? And I've thought a lot about that since, and I have found since then that there is always something to learn. You might be a big time investor or very successful in your own right, because you're right. A lot of the people that come into our coaching world, they are. And so, but there's always something that can be shared or that you can learn that could literally revolutionize your business. When I first joined our coaching company as a coach and everything, um, I started learning so much from the founder of our company, Nate, and the other coaches. I'm just like blown away from what I learned. And sometimes it's a really small thing that has a really, really big impact on my business. And then other times it's a really big thing. You're like, how did I ever miss that? Right. And so you just have to have an open mind. You have to be humble about it, have an open mind, and you never know what you can be taught. It's just awesome.
And that's the thing about when you do get into a group and there's so many different people with so many different backgrounds, you can constantly learn. And if you open your ears and listen to what people are saying, because like you said, sometimes you're a bit sort of single-minded, but when you actually just sort of listen to, you go, oh wow, how long has that been going on? Oh wow, that penny just dropped. I didn't realize. And like you said, you've done 1,600 plus deals, but there's still stuff as the head coach you're learning every day. So that's humility. That's a great great nugget to take out of this. Is when you start thinking you know everything, you might just need to slow down and then just listen and learn from people around you. And like you said, there's 30 different styles of investing that you can do. So you're not going to know everything. And you said an interesting thing before, Chris, that sometimes you don't know. Someone asks you and you sort of don't know, and you just say, listen, I can find out. And that's something that you guys teach is when you're talking to, say, sellers, sometimes you just say, listen, I'm going to be honest and I don't know, but I can find that out for you. So, that's another thing with your coach hat on is you teach that. You teach integrity, openness, transparency, and to be organized and have business structure. So when these things pop up, you can deal with them and you're in a calmer spot. So, for people that have been through your program would know this, that there's so many different coaches from a diverse range that when you go through the coaching, you just get hit with stuff from all over the place. And then when you do pick yourself up off the ground, Randy, Coach Dr. Phil, he's there to give you a bit of tough love on top of that. So you've just surrounded. And this leads me to the next question, Chris, is group dynamics. How important is it to surround yourself with real estate people and good real estate people? And then how important is mentors, people that are further ahead than you? How important is that?
I think it gets back to your goals, right? It gets back to what you really, really want. But if you really want to be successful in this business or any business, then you've got to surround yourself with people that are operating at a higher level than you are, right? And so if I'm doing 1 or 2 or 3 deals a year, and I want to operate at a deal a month or a deal a week, then I need to be surrounding myself with those people, because there's no mystery, right? There's no, it's not magic on how deals materialize and work and everything, come about. It's just that you've got to learn what it takes. And the best way to learn what it takes to get that pipeline flowing freely is to surround yourself with people that are doing it, they know how to operate the pipeline. They know how to operate deals and find deals and structure deals and sell deals, close deals. And so it's crucial. If you want that, you've got to find people and associate with people that are operating at that level, the level you want to be at.
Yeah, and you
not
mentioned
the level you're at.
Yeah,
not the level you're
yeah,
at. You want to be at.
And like you said, for successful people in their own right, they can still, up their game and hang out with people that are further down the track than them and still get better. So that's Absolutely. The thing. And you mentioned the founder Nate before. Nate's really big on shake yourself off. Let's get into it. Let's play full on. Don't play half. If you're gonna do stuff, do it full on. So that's another thing that you guys teach as a part of your culture is just take action. You've got to learn the stuff as you go. You're not going to know steps 8 and 9 until you've done 1 or 2. So let's get in the trenches and let's take action. So that's something I think for anyone watching, that's another thing that you guys teach, and you can get analysis paralysis sometimes by over. I mean, there's so much information out there. So I know you guys are big on rolling the sleeves up. What have you done this week? What are you going to do next week? Let's get this. Let's like I said, it's not magic. It's getting in there and actually doing it. And you could probably be a good testament to this, Chris. Sometimes you learn more on the job than you do in the classroom. That's something that can happen. Now,
So true.
I just wanted to. You've done a bit of traveling. You've been out of my side of the world, haven't you? You've been to New Zealand. I think from us talking, you've probably more in New Zealand, but you've been to Australia.
Well, early on, I was in New Zealand more, but since then, I've spent a lot more time in Australia and seen a lot more of the cities there than I have in New Zealand.
In New Zealand,
yeah. Melbourne, I love Melbourne. Beautiful.
Melbourne. Well, you've got a tour guide here. You've got a tour guide that said when you come out here, you're going to jump in the car with him, and you're going to, he's going to show you all the hidden gems of Melbourne. So I keep threatening you with that. But that leads me to I've got a pop quiz here, an Australian pop quiz. So I'm gonna hit you with that. I'm gonna ask you just a couple of quick questions, quiz style. Now, where's
my cap? I got to put my thinking cap.
Just strap yourself in, people, because you Chris could have a meltdown. He might not be able to pivot on this one. But your favourite Aussie band, Chris?
My favorite Aussie band. Wow. So
we'll start with your favorite Aussie song. What's your favorite Aussie song?
Wow, that might be even tougher. Well, I love AC/DC.
There you go.
Back in the day, AC/DC was awesome. Thunderstruck, probably my favorite AC/DC song. But there's a couple of hidden gems that I really, really like from Australia. One of those is, you remember the old group Men at Work?
Yes, Men at Work. Yep.
I really liked Men at Work at the time back in the day. And then since then, I've listened to some of Colin
Hayes. Yeah, he's
Hayes. Yeah, he's the lead singer, obviously, and he's done some solo stuff, and I really like some of his stuff too. And then I've in my older years here, I've kind of transitioned a little bit from rock and roll back in the day to I listen to a little more country these days. And so, gotta love Keith Urban.
He's an icon, isn't he?
He is.
Just for the people watching that don't know much about Australia, Men at Work did that theme, I Come From the Land Down Under. So that's the unofficial Australian national anthem that gets sung at many parties. And Thunderstruck gets belted out as well, Chris. So
that's awesome.
I'm glad you said that, because that's appropriate to the show. So well done. You weren't even scripted with that. And because you've been to Australia, what's your favorite Australian food?
Ooh, favorite Australian food. I'm probably going to be a little boring on this one, but you guys have some of the best steaks. Anywhere. And so I do. I'm from Texas myself, and so born and raised on good old steaks, and so that's something that I try most places that I go.
Yeah,
great steak.
I was going to say that's pretty big rap for Australian steak. If you're coming from a boy that grew up in Texas, I mean that's a great rap. So we'll take that one. We'll take that as a win for the Aussies. Your favorite drink? Your favorite drink? So I don't drink alcohol. That might turn some of your Aussie listeners off. I hope not. But so that rules out VB. That rules out VB, which is the beer, the iconic beer. So that's gone. We'll take that off.
That one's out of there. But I do love Milo. I go in search of Milo everywhere I can here. It's harder to find in the States, but it's still around. And so I go in search of Milo as often as I can. So I love a good Milo.
So for the viewers, Milo, chase up Milo and Vegemite. That Vegemite gives you superhuman powers. That's why guys can go.
I'm still working on my tolerance for Vegemite or Marmite. Either one of those. Yeah.
Yeah. One of our mutual friends, Caleb, I've been schooling him on Vegemite. I see that he's getting right into fitness and he's getting strong. And I said, that's the Vegemite. That's got to be the Vegemite doing it for you, mate.
That's awesome.
Your favorite animal, your favorite Australian animal, because the animals are different over here than way different than America. What's your
Yeah,
favorite
true.
animal?
Wow, that's a good question. So I'm fascinated with here in the States with alligators, obviously crocodiles over there. So I'm fascinated. I could sit there and just watch them, even though they don't budge. They sit there the whole time. I could just stare at them and just fascinated with that. Kangaroos, obviously, you gotta like kangaroos. But the last trip that I was over there, I visited Kuranda, which is one of your
It's up
like
in
your
Queensland.
rainforest.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Queensland. Yeah.
And so I held a koala bear for the first time when I was
Oh,
there.
beautiful. Yep.
That was pretty cool. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for people that think that this is not real estate related, Chris got here because of real estate. So
Yeah.
this, just remember that. You're saying, oh, move on. I want some more gold nuggets or some thunderbolts, as we call them. Chris the opportunities come up because of real estate. And that's what you got to always remember is you're still a human being. The opportunities you get from real estate can do amazing things in your life. So that's why we've hit him with the pop quiz. You've said the city. Do you think Melbourne's still your favourite city?
I haven't been to a city in Australia that I didn't like. And so Melbourne, I thought was beautiful, especially from a cultural standpoint. It was just a beautiful, beautiful city. Sydney is probably the city that I've been to the most, just kind of the hub, I guess. So I really liked Sydney, Bondi Beach. Is it Bondi or
Bondi Beach? Yeah. Yep.
Beach.
Beach,
It was beautiful. So that was good up there near Kuranda, Cairns, I believe.
Cairns, yep.
Pronounce it.
Another beautiful place, yeah.
And then way over on the west coast, Perth.
Perth, yeah. The Wild West, the Texas of Australia.
Yeah, that's why it felt like home.
Yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to say earlier, I sort of didn't get to it, but you're a Texan boy. You and your brother, who you're in business with, are known right across Texas as the notorious Strickland brothers, right?
Right.
And everyone breathed a sigh of relief when you sort of moved out and moved on to other states because you were like over here. We have the Cali gang who were bush rangers, and I don't. But yeah, you're born and bred in Texas, so which is an iconic place. It's got some very iconic stuff. But just for the last question, and this is probably the biggest question for the Oz quiz, is who's your favourite Australian student that you've ever come across through the social media blueprint? Like who would you say is the greatest one that's come out of the Southern Hemisphere even?
I tell you what, there's a lot of talent down there, right? A lot of talent, a lot of go-getters, a lot of people that are just really, really making things happen. But we did teach one time this bloke down there that just blew everyone else away. And so I'll introduce him to you next time I see you, Graham.
And I hear a story that there was an incident at the airport when you come over to America for one of your conferences in Florida. There's a good story. Whether we don't know how much truth's in the story, but it's a good story. So that's something we'll have to share for another time. But thanks for showing the human side. That's why I've done that, Chris, because I know you. You're a mentor of mine. I call you a friend, and I love you. I love your. I love you. You've got a lot going on, but you've got a good sense of humor in the program. You've got a good sense of humor. So I thought I'd throw that one in for today. We don't usually do that. You're a special guest, so we've thrown that in.
Well, may I get serious for just a second?
Yeah, let's get serious. Let's finish up. Let's wrap it up and be a bit serious about real estate and everything. Yeah.
Well, I want to get serious about you for just a second because honestly, Graham, you are, and no matter where you come from, you're down in Australia, and so yes, you are definitely our most successful Australian student, and everything. You've just strive to make it work, and so that's great. That's hats off to you. But the thing I mentioned humility earlier. The thing that I love about you is that you're just willing to do whatever it takes to be successful. Obviously, shouldn't even have to say it, but obviously to keep things, we won't always keep things ethical and above board, but you really do anything that it takes to make this venture successful, and hats off to you for that. And so it doesn't matter if you're from Australia or right next door to me. I mean, that is what it takes to be successful in this business. So thanks for being that
Oh, no,
person.
appreciate that, Chris. Thanks for the kind words. And, the reason, that I've been wanting to get you on the show is because you've had an impact on my life. And Social Media Blueprint, I wouldn't have my Facebook group without it. I wouldn't be here today without it. It opened up so many doors. And that's what I say to people that are watching. I mean, you mentioned it before, just keep yourself open for learning, keep yourself open for opportunities. One of your coaches, grabbed me aside, shook me, old Dr. Phil Randy, and he opened up a whole different thing that I didn't think of. Your other coaches took me down the Facebook group path. I come in the program with a fixed mindset, and it opened up. So I just, that's why I wanted to get you on, because you're the head of coaching. You're responsible for all this that happens. And I just say to people that are in the, watching this or watch the replay that, one of Chris's points during the podcast was you're going to learn something new every day. You can be 70 years old and still learn new things in this business. So keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, listen, and hang around with people like Chris and his team. And I just want to give, with your team, Chris, you've got people, you've got some of your staff have done hundreds and hundreds of virtual deals from their state and never left their state. So you guys are, like you said, you guys were doing it before it was, trendy on YouTube or whatever. You guys were doing it and teaching it. And also you've got creative finance people. You've got people right across the board that are teaching, and they've got success. They've all got, high stats. And like you said, humility. They teach humility. And, I just really appreciate you coming on. And I hope people can get a lot of the thunderbolts out of this, because you're a very experienced man and you're surrounded by great people. So I just encourage people to even rewatch this, take some notes, and learn from one of the masters, one of the MVPs in the industry. So thanks for coming on, Chris. Thank you for a bit of lighthearted stuff at the end. I appreciate that. And I wish you the best moving forward, and wish in both investing and Social Media Blueprint and what you actually are doing for the industry. It's a great thing. And, whether it be Nate, yourself, or the team, you're doing great work out there. And it's fantastic. So we'll wrap it up, Chris. We've pretty much stayed on time. We've done well. It must be you're a consummate professional, so you've been able to wind it in. But we'll say goodbye, and I'll hit the outro, and we'll say bye for now, Chris.
Graham, thank you so much for having me be a part of this. And I really, really appreciate it. You're a great person. Glad to spend a few minutes with you.
All right. Good on you. See you, everyone. Thanks for viewing.
Bye-bye.